Hi guys, I'm Guy down here in Osaka, Japan here. Very privileged to talk to Swery, who is the producer for Deadly Premonition. There's going to be a director's cut of the game, which Swery is going to be releasing in 2013, and I've been lucky enough to be able to talk to him about it early. So Swery, tell us what we can expect from the director's cut of Deadly Premonition.
They've changed a lot with the director's cut. The main thing is they've added a couple elements to the story. And most importantly, the controls have been changed to more of a world standard type control, using the left stick to move around and the right stick to control the camera, and the right buttons to attack, things like this. So they have added some elements to the story and changed a bit of the contents, but the main changes are mostly the controllers, which should be a lot easier to use this time. Another thing that they've changed as far as the visual aspects is they've made it a lot more pretty, basically. The original version was 720p, and they've changed it to high definition. Now it's 1080p, and they've changed a bit of the shading and textures, things like this. So it should look a lot more graphically. It's been a lot more enhanced than the last version.
Tell us a little bit about what going back to the project has allowed you to do in terms of, did you want to address any of the, I guess, the criticisms that some people had with the game? I mean, it was a very divisive game, or is that what made the project special to you?
With the original version, a lot of people were really satisfied with the characters in the story, and they got a lot of really good reviews about that.
Shoes. I was really enjoying it. Sicko. He knelt down. Disgusting.
But they said there were also a lot of people who weren't fully satisfied with the graphics and the controls, and they had a lot of comments. For example, they want the game to be made a little bit easier to play, and they wanted to make it, I guess, just visually, they wanted it enhanced. So he said they've gone back, and on top of adding a few story elements and changing a bit of the story, they've also enhanced the graphics, the controllers, and he said he didn't mention this earlier, but they've also made it 3D compatible and also compatible with the PS Move.
So one of the most popular discussions on GameSpot is around the original game's ending. Were you tempted to go in and change that at all in the director's cut, or add to it, or tweak it? Has that been something you wanted to do?
He's not sure exactly how much he should reveal, but as far as the opening and the ending both, there is something that's different. Since the original version was completed, he didn't want to kind of break that down or do anything to mess it up or anything. So he said they thought really hard about exactly what they could change without destroying the original format. So he said they put a lot of thought into that, and the new director's cut, he says they feel that they've really done a good job with implementing those changes they wanted to make.
The director's cut, at least in Europe, allows you to bring the game to the PlayStation 3 for the first time as well. It was on Xbox 360 in Europe. Is that something you wanted to do with the original game?
So, originally they did want to make it a multi-platform game for both 360 and the PS3, but I guess there was just a lot of things that came up, and they ended up only being able to release it for the 360. So he said this time, not just for Japan, but for North America and Europe, both of these regions as well, they wanted to be able to have as many people as possible play the game. And so one of the main focuses this time was being able to get it on the PS3.
So at GDC last year, you were asked what you might have liked to have added to the game if you had more time and resources for the project. And one of the answers that you gave was that you wanted the character of York to be able to ride a bicycle and wear cologne. Is that something that you've been able to do with the director's cut at all?
What I said last year at GDC was I'd like to have York be able to ride a bicycle and take a shower and use cologne, things like this. But unfortunately, in this version, we weren't able to do any of those things. But one thing that may be possible is to have the character of York buy a house in Greenvale and live there and basically have his own residence. So that may be possible in this upcoming version.
These are suggestions from the GDC panel that proved very popular with the audience that was there watching Swery, I believe. And I mean, how does Swery feel with the reaction that the original game had? There's people out there that really love it. I mean, how do you engage with those fans? Do you listen to kind of their feedback and their suggestions, Swery?
We do get a lot of comments and suggestions from fans, especially on Twitter and Facebook. And the suggestion that we've received the most was people who wanted the controls to be more to match up with the world standard. And so that's why we decided to make the controls match with the world standard this time. And also another thing that a lot of people wanted was they wanted to see more cutscenes of York. And so we had to decide how to implement these new cutscenes without destroying the original format or changing too much about the original game. Another comment that we've received a lot of is the map is a bit hard to use, and so a lot of people want us to change the map. And we're actually right now kind of struggling to work that out because changing even just little things with the map tends to kind of change a lot of other things of the game too. It can kind of break down some things. So right now they're actually having a lot of trouble trying to work that out, but they're doing their best to work out the map and make it easier to use for this new one.
The director's cut version of the game is really interesting from what I've read. You know, like many directors, but in movies and games, you were kind of forced to do some stuff that you perhaps were initially reticent to do. I know you said that originally Deadly Premonition didn't have kind of gunplay or didn't have shooting elements in it. How do you feel in hindsight of being asked to introduce those and have them in the game? And do you think it worked better with those elements?
ディレクターズカットでは今回やっぱり
Looking back on things, there were some elements that we did and didn't want to add in, but since it's a director's cut, it's not like it's not a different version of the game, and we wanted to keep it. We feel that the original game is complete as is, so we wanted to keep the original game as much as possible and just add a bit onto there. So as far as, for example, shooting and monsters, things like this, we're really satisfied with the job that we did, and there's nothing particular that we wish we hadn't put in or anything that we wish we should have put more in. And we think that the director's cut is basically just an improved version of what was already a complete game. When we were making the original version, it was actually canceled 4 times due to a couple things. For example, expressions of violence and, for example, the way people are killed. And so we had to take those out of the game. But this time for the director's cut, we talked to the publisher again and said that we'd like to bring these back and put them in the new cut. But they ended up telling us, no, sorry, you can't do that. So these elements, we've unfortunately had to leave out of the game. It's a bit too extreme for the game, so it turns down for that.
It's great that you're bringing back Deadly Premonition in a new form, but where does this leave a sequel? Can you tell us anything about that?
We'd like to first get the game out to as many people as possible and have as many people play it as possible. And if we have enough people saying we like this game, we'd like to see more of it, then we'd have more of an opportunity and more there'd be more possibility to put out, for example, a complete version or a totally different sequel. And for the time being, mainly we want to get it out and get as many people to play it and enjoy it as possible. So yeah, we're satisfied with the elements that are in it now, and we'd like to see how that turns out as far as future versions go.
And tell us about the development scene here in Osaka. Obviously, you've got yourselves, you've got Platinum, you've got Capcom. Tell us about what it's like being a developer in Osaka.
From way back in the day, I guess, in Japan, the game industry is mainly concentrated here in the Kansai region, Osaka, Kyoto, around there. Kyoto has Nintendo, and Osaka has Capcom, Konami, lots of companies like this. And so originally I was working in SNK, and once I left there, I decided to stay in this general region because this is the best area to continue to develop games, I guess in the real Japanese style, and to be more specific, the real like Kansai style. So it's a really good environment for creating games, for developing games, and it's really comfortable as far as game developers go to be here in Osaka. As I said earlier, there were a lot of people who didn't play the original or couldn't play the original, and so there's 2 things that we're mainly focusing on at this point, and one of them is getting people who didn't or couldn't play the game earlier to get into the game and have them, enjoy it for the first time. And so we're being really careful to make sure that as many people as possible can get into the game and can enjoy it. And the other thing that we're focusing on is people who had played the original game. We don't want to, break down their enjoyment of the game by changing anything too much or adding any elements that they're not going to like. So the other thing that we're being really careful with is adding to the game without breaking down the original format and making sure that people who did enjoy the original can enjoy the director's cut even further. And so we're really looking forward to seeing how people take the game.
Okay, thanks very much for your time, Swery. You can find out more about Deadly Premonition Director's Cut. Just head over to GameSpot.com.